What's up everybody, Maran here for the final weekly update of 2024, and in this video I'm going to just do a quick little overview of the one big news story this week. Not much else going on in the car world, but then I'm also going to cover my top 10 cars of the year, as well as a couple of disappointing cars and also some changes here for the channel, some stuff I'm looking forward to in 2025 car wise and on the channel here. But before I get into all that stuff, I first want to mention I will be doing my last live stream here of 2024 on Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So join if you can. It's always a fun time hanging out and talking cars with all of you. But getting into the one news story here this week, which is a really big deal, so that's why I didn't want to skip it. So briefly, I'll just say, Nissan and Honda signed a memorandum of understanding, many of you probably already heard about this, to explore a merger. So it isn't a done deal yet. This has to get approval from the Japanese regulators and the government, has to get approval from, a bunch of other stuff from both sides, from Nissan's board, Honda's board. Everyone has to agree on the terms. Still lots of hurdles. So the merger is not a done deal. It's not happening just yet, but they are exploring a merger with a plan to have a definitive agreement set by June of 2025. And the new holding company that would contain those two companies and potentially Mitsubishi as well, that would be formed by 2026 at some point. And Nissan CEO said of the merger that if realized, I believe that by uniting the strengths of both companies, we can deliver unparalleled value to customers worldwide who appreciate our respective brands. Together, we can create a unique way for them to enjoy cars that neither company could achieve alone. So hopefully those last few words, to me, almost sound like we're talking about sports cars, saying achieving vehicles they couldn't do on their own. That's usually the partnership kind of stuff that is done for, vehicles that wouldn't be super popular, that are lower volume. I wouldn't get too excited though, because again, Nissan is just fighting for survival. Honda is probably taking a massive financial hit, shouldering Nissan here. I can't imagine either of them saying, hey, now let's burn a few, $100 million developing a sports car. I'm sure, this is maybe for some other stuff that might make more sense, like maybe a new Nissan Xterra or some other things like that. But, hopefully we'll get some cool stuff, though. It kind of seems to be the hint there. And so, Mitsubishi might join the party later, signing their own memorandum of understanding to explore the possibility of Mitsubishi Motors' participation, involvement, and synergy sharing in this new holding group. So sounds like they're kind of in a wait and see situation. If it sounds like something that's fun to join, then maybe they will. Maybe they won't, though. We'll have to see how that all plays out. There's also no update on last week's reports that Renault was looking to sell their 15% stake in Nissan. And the report was that it could potentially be sold to Foxconn, because Foxconn's been trying to buy a stake in Nissan, and Nissan doesn't want them to have a stake in their company. But maybe they could get it from Renault. We'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, so that's the state of the situation here at the end of the year as far as Nissan's fate. If things fall apart, then we'll see what happens with Nissan. It could get even crazier yet. But again, there's a lot of hoops that need to be jumped through before this actually becomes a real thing. But very interesting to hear that. Now, moving on to the reflection on this past year here. Before I get into my top 10 cars, which, are going to be cars that are just selfishly cars that I had fun driving, I also want to highlight 6 vehicles that I also was very impressed with that are regular cars, not the super crazy awesome stuff, but just regular cars that I genuinely, though, was like, wow, this is a really good car, even if it's not super sexy or exciting. And the first one is the Nissan Kicks. It's cheap, but it's super plush inside. It's exactly what a lot of people want from a little crossover, and it's the most affordable all-wheel drive crossover in America. And I was so impressed with it this year, and that was actually a pretty popular video, so I'm glad so many of you it resonated with. I think people are so burned out by high prices, and stuff like the Kicks shows you don't have to spend $50,000 to get a nice little vehicle. And so I'm so happy to see that. I was also really excited about this Civic Hybrid this year. Again, nothing super sexy again, but it has Civic Si performance, or slightly better than Civic Si performance, in a straight line, and 50 mpg. To me, that's an awesome example of how engineers can achieve amazing things, giving you top-notch, fuel economy, and give you that, really good performance, and makes you question, do you need the SI's slightly bigger brakes, or do you need the manual transmission? It's this is one of those kind of like best of all the worlds, kind of have your cake and eat it too kind of thing with the Civic Hybrid. I was very impressed with that, more than I thought I would be. I was also really impressed with the Camry. The new Camry, again, nothing crazy. It's not even, an entirely new generation. There's some carryover there, but the way they retuned everything, especially I had the all-wheel drive hybrid for a week, and that is the fastest feeling 225 horsepower I've ever felt in a car. I mean, it doesn't sound like much on paper, but man, the way they have that rear motor to ramp up and power you out of corners in the all-wheel drive version, it was actually really fun, and I wasn't expecting it. You can go back and watch that My Week With video that I did. I was like cracking up, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting this excited about a Camry, but it was really fun. So that was another pleasant surprise. I was also really impressed with the Lincoln Nautilus. That was another one. It's a hybrid. It gives you great fuel economy, but super plush, super luxurious, and I think it's a nice return to form for Lincoln, giving you something that is just focused on luxury, nothing else, and does luxury very well in a beautiful package. And I just was so impressed with that vehicle. It seems like it's selling really well, and it deserves to, because it's really good to see Lincoln have a solid win. I think they really needed it. So that was great to see. I was also really impressed with the Chevy Equinox EV. Another one where, they start at $35,000 and it's not some penalty box. It's a really nice vehicle, lots of space, big screens, solid range. I mean, all kinds of really impressive stuff, and shows that, again, you don't need to spend $50,000 to get a nice vehicle. Now, you can get a fully loaded Equinox EV for $50,000, but, the lower ones give you a lot of the same great standard equipment and same powertrains and all that. And, just for people that are like, oh, electric cars are too expensive, Equinox EV is fantastic. I just wish it had Apple CarPlay. But other than that, I mean, it's really a solid thing, and it's impressive that Chevy can offer that for that price. The last little one I'll mention was the Fiat 500e that I just reviewed here. That is another one that is it's fun. And as someone who admires, European vehicles, and just the fact that people can have smaller cars in Europe and it's not insane, I just really am so happy that they brought the 500e over here. I know it's not selling well. They're stopping production because it's selling so poorly. So it's a selfish thing that I know is a bad business choice in America here, but I'm just happy we got it. And it was really fun to sample that. And it's a really fun little car if you don't need to, drive 150 miles or more a day. It's a really fun little runaround, and it's a really good price these days. I mean, they're leasing for next to nothing. In Colorado, they're actually going for nothing if you're lucky enough to live in Colorado. But really a fun little car, and so joyful, and actually really well executed in my opinion. So those are my top 6 regular cars. But as far as the top 10 fun ones that are just not the best cars, but just the cars that I enjoyed the most, had the most fun in, because I often get this kind of a question, the ones that my top 10 of the year. Here they are. Number 10, we'll start at 10 and go up to number 1. The BMW X5M Competition. It's actually the first BMW press car I ever had this year. Finally got one from them. Only one. Haven't had one since. Hopefully I get more in 2025. But I was just so impressed. I hadn't experienced this new Gen X5 in general, and to do the pinnacle of the X5M competition, I mean, it was so impressive, so luxurious still, but just so high performing and really well done. And so that was definitely a highlight. Number 9 was the Aston Martin DBX 707. This one, I will admit, I'm a little biased on. I personally love Aston Martin as a brand, and finally getting to drive a DBX was very exciting. But it's also a very fast, very impressive, super SUV, and so it deserves to be on this list in my opinion, and was a very impressive vehicle. But I never get to review Aston Martin, so that was a special treat for me for sure. Number 8 was the Rolls-Royce Spectre, and this one again is actually the most expensive vehicle I've ever reviewed, so that was kind of a cool new record here this year, about $550,000 for that Spectre I was driving. And it's also, of course, a very impressive car. It's a top of the line Rolls-Royce, the first truly silent Rolls-Royce there, being electric and all that. And very cool to drive a Rolls-Royce. It's also a 2-door Rolls-Royce, since I love coupes. So that was number 8. Number 7 was the McLaren Artura Spider. Again, it's a supercar. goes without saying, it's going to be one of the highlights of the year for me. It was the only supercar actually I reviewed this year, but it's also just really good. It's not just, winning by default, but it's, a really good vehicle, such good steering, amazing with the dynamics. I love the convertible aspect. I always love convertibles. So that was a really fun one for sure. Number 6 was the Dodge Charger Daytona. So this one I know is probably an unpopular opinion, but I was actually really happy with it. I came into it with fairly high expectations, and I think most of my expectations were met. It's not perfect. If you watch my review, you'll know I had some things I didn't like about it, but overall, I think that they really delivered. And for a first generation, first model year iteration of, experimenting with these new sounds, experimenting with new ways to deliver emotion in a world of electrified vehicles that often has no emotion. It provides that, and I commend their bravery. I respect them, going in this direction, and I mean, it's gonna be, destroying the drag strip next year with just perfect launches, all-wheel drive traction. And it's going to be super easy to just launch that thing perfectly, and it's going to be awesome, I think, for those that are willing to go for it and willing to pay the admittedly high price tag for it as well. But also, just again, I love 2-doors. Great to finally see a 2-door EV that's not some hypercar. And so yeah, that was number 6 there. Number 5, polar opposite in a way, it was the V8 Miata that I reviewed this year. That one was obviously just very wild, and just having an LS V8 in a little Miata was just hilarious fun, a wild ride. And that also was the highest viewed video I've had in many years. That thing has been cruising, and now it's over 800,000 views since May. And that video also, not only was it, a fun return to form of getting back to reviewing modified stuff, which I hope to do a little more of again next year as well, but it was just also restoring my faith in YouTube in general, that like, hey, I can still have a big hit, even all these years later. And it was really fun to see a video perform that well, but it was just a very fun video to film too. So that's number 5. Number 4 was the GR Corolla with the DAT automatic transmission. Probably another unpopular opinion. I know a lot of the hype has passed on GR Corolla. A lot of people are soured on it for a variety of reasons. I still love it. It still is, to me, the spiritual successor to the WRX STI. It is the car for WRX fans that like old school WRX stuff but want a new vehicle. GR Corolla is still it. I won't go on a rant about GR Corollas again, but the DAT version I was really impressed with, obviously driving it for the first time this year. That transmission, I mean, Toyota really pulled off what I thought was almost impossible, of matching the ZF 8-speed automatic with shift speed, with smoothness, and with the performance. And so far they've done it. I mean, I only spent a day with it. I'm hoping to spend a week with one here in 2025 and, evaluate it a little bit more. But, it's not hard. I mean, it's really hard to do a good torque converter automatic. Toyotas in the past, they've had some slower ones. And so the fact that this is like a world-class transmission, is actually really impressive. I think it was very underappreciated. It didn't really get a whole lot of hype, but like, it is a really good transmission, and I hope it spreads out to other Toyotas very quickly, because it is fantastic. And pairing it with the awesome GR Corolla that I just adore still, made that an easy top 5 one for me here. Number 3 though is the Lexus LC500. Again, nothing new there on that one. Been around for a long time, but getting to spend a week with one here, just a couple months ago was so fun. It's still just such a timeless, perfect car, that glorious sounding V8 with the gorgeous looks, the Lexus build quality and reliability. I mean, it's really one of my favorite cars on the market today. And man, if I had the money, that would be definitely on my top to buy list for sure. And so anyway, LC500 is number 3. Number 2 is the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing. There's so many things I love about that car. The fact that it has a manual still, the fact that it still has a supercharged V8 engine and still handles phenomenally well, and even got a little bit better with the handling here with the new 2025s, in addition to the nice new interior update that I covered and all that. Again, that's another like dream car that I'd love to have someday. It's just a pretty much a perfect car. And, you know, I'm just so grateful that car can still exist. You know, I'm really grateful of the way GM played, you know, the EV thing and the regulation thing where they have enough EVs so they can still keep these gas guzzlers around. And, you know, it's really paying off because now they're the last one standing with anything like this, really. And it is phenomenal. Highly recommend driving a Blackwing if you ever can. And my number one, my top favorite vehicle for me personally this year was the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. And I mean, I called it back in, I think it was July when I did that review. I even titled it Car of the Year question mark. And I had to wait and see how Charger played out and a few others. But Ioniq 5N is my car of the year. It is phenomenal. I had so much fun driving that thing, and everything is executed perfectly. The manual shifting, the mimicking of the sounds, the ability to choose variety of sounds that, you know, you can have it suit whatever taste you want. But then it also just handles really well. It accelerates really well. I think it looks great. You know, it's not perfect. Once again, there's a few things I'd like to see a more luxurious version with a moonroof and stuff, but it's a hot hatch. I love, you know, again, sport compact stuff is really, I think, you know, my true first love, and this is kind of like the ultimate crazy hot hatch with, you know, this electrified powertrain that still gives you no compromises, in my opinion. And it's just a fantastic car. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, again, really impressive stuff on this list. Blackwing especially, you know, it's almost crazy for me to say that I like it better than Blackwing. But I think just for me, it was the most fun because it's new, it's different. The Blackwing is impressive, but the Blackwing isn't anything revolutionary. It's awesome, but, you know, it's been done many times before. I think the Blackwing is obviously the best iteration of that. But, you know, Ioniq 5N goes where no car has gone before and is bold and daring and creative. As someone who reviews cars, you know, and instead of just being like, well, these all are just following the same evolution and it's just, you know, very predictable. This was unpredictable. This was, you know, a risk and a bold move by Hyundai. And I think it paid off really well. I think, again, for first generation stuff, they executed it so well. And I just have so much respect for the Hyundai N team, the way they did this so well, and I absolutely adore the Ioniq 5N. So that is my personal top number one car of the year. But as far as my disappointments of the year, there was a few. You know, the main two, though, for me, I think, were the Mustang EcoBoost and the Mercedes AMG GLA 35. So Mustang EcoBoost, you know, I think it's just the fact that it's so expensive these days, and the transmission, the fact you're now forced to have the 10-speed automatic, which, at least in the car I had, was just a horrible experience. That transmission just never knew what I wanted to do. And again, that was 50 grand for an EcoBoost. It was the same price as my Bullet, you know, 5 years ago, basically. And just, it's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me anymore. I really, it's hard to find the justification for the EcoBoost when it used to be a really solid, like, sport compact kind of thing with that. And I love the EcoBoost of the S550 generation, but this one it's too expensive, and saddling it with just that automatic just zaps a lot of the appeal. And I think you're better off just going for a GT if you want anything sporty from a Mustang these days. So that was a disappointment. Also, the Mercedes GLA, I mean, that thing is so expensive, and it's fun when you're attacking a back road, but I mean, it's a rough ride. The interior's cheap. The tech in it is problematic, and it's just a car that I really have to wonder why anyone would actually buy it. You know, because there's just so many better options, especially in the hot hatch segment these days. And so for me, that was just, again, another disappointment. One other last little one was the Subaru Forester. They had an opportunity for a brand new generation to kind of really up their game, and instead it is mildly competitive with the current stuff out there these days, but, like, it's very unimpressive. I mean, Subaru's been a pretty unimpressive brand for me for several years now, with the way they've decided to play things. But I mean, it's just so bland for the new Forester, and so predictable, and so baby steps, you know, as far as changing things. And so that was another one. Again, it's like my biggest impressive things from cars is whenever they're bold and daring and executed well and really competitive. And, you know, those three vehicles just aren't those things, in my opinion. As far as cars I'm excited for in 2025, there's not a lot. I feel like this is the first year where there isn't a lot of stuff for me to be super excited about, like what's coming next. I feel like, we had kind of the greatest hits here for many years, and we've had a lot of really, really fun stuff. We had the phase of all the hot hatches a couple years ago. We had the phase of all the muscle stuff, obviously, and, all these different, eras of exciting new vehicles. And I'm looking at the new stuff for 2025, and really the only stuff I can see, the one that's, guaranteed to be impressive is going to be the Corvette ZR1. 1,064 horsepower is truly wild. And I mean, I was blown away in 2023 with the Z06. Then you strap twin turbos onto that thing. It's honestly, I think it's going to be too much. We will see. I'm more than happy to volunteer to see if it is in fact too much or not. Hopefully I get a chance to drive one next year. But that's going to be probably the wildest ride, I'm sure, of 2025 from a car standpoint. So that is, the one I'm most excited for. Other ones, I think the new Honda Prelude will be interesting to try out, and that's coming towards the end of 2025 here. Again, it's not going to be super wild. Probably just, again, that Civic hybrid kind of powertrain with those little paddle shifter things I talked about last week in the weekly update. Kind of make it a little bit more fun. Nothing crazy, but as, again, a fan of sport compacts and, growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s as a teenager, that's the kind of stuff that gets me excited. So the return of Prelude is something that I'm just so nostalgic for that I have to be excited about it. And so that is one I'm excited for. There's also some stuff that's unconfirmed. We don't know yet, like Celica. Maybe that'll return next year, or maybe at least be revealed next year. There's been so many rumors about that. Maybe that's coming. I just don't know. So that's kind of an up in the air kind of thing. But, seeing the early formation of, Prelude coming back, possibly Celica, these sport compacts, it'd be fun to see some more of that. And if these two kick it off, I'd love to see more. Maybe, again, if this merger goes through, maybe Nissan gets some kind of fun, two-door little sport compact, or even four-door, it'd be fun to see. So we'll see how that all plays out. But let me know if there's anything that you're excited for in 2025, maybe some stuff that I missed. Be curious to hear what you guys think. And lastly, for some quick reflection on the channel here and some plans for 2025, the channel still is, struggling. I'm still trying to grow it. I think, the second half of this year, I started to see some promising signs. Again, that Miata video, right around the middle of the year definitely gave me some confidence that, like, hey, I can still, get some decent views on some stuff on this channel, and I'm still working really hard. But this was the year I did sell the Bullet this year, and that was something I never wanted to do, and that was tough. So this, it's crazy. This was the year I finally had to let the Bullet go, and that was a result of the channel just not doing as well as it has in the past. And so I'm still going to work my tail off to just try and make this the best channel I can, and, spread awareness of it as best I can, and hopefully it grows. Hopefully, the videos do well. We will just have to see, what happens in 2025. It does sound like YouTube's going to be cracking down on clickbait a little bit more next year. So hopefully that helps, weed out some of the garbage that's out there to help the better videos that actually are done by people with integrity to the top here. And so, I'm optimistic that, things will hopefully improve for 2025. One thing that I am going to be changing here, going into the new year, I've talked in the past a lot about, whether I keep the weekly updates around, because they've actually dropped off a lot in views this year on average. I was considering kind of ending them at the end of this year, but I have one final way that I kind of came up with to hopefully keep them around. What I'm going to be doing is I will still do the weekly updates as normal, as a 30 minutes or so roundup of everything on Friday afternoons. But what I'm also going to be doing is I'm going to be individually uploading each of those segments. And, because a lot of times, like, I talk about the 2026 Hyundai Palisade for 5 minutes. That could be its own video. And a lot of those things get buried whenever the headline is just the top 2 or 3 stories. Unless you use the timestamps or you watch the whole video, you miss all the other stuff I talk about. So I'm going to upload those as separate videos, but on YouTube you can upload in a way where I can check a box so that it does not notify subscribers, does not pop up in your sub feed, and will literally just let the algorithm do its thing. And that's kind of my goal with those videos, is just to expand the reach of the channel, let the recommendations do their thing. So if you are a subscriber and you happen to miss the weekly update or you don't watch the weekly updates, but the algorithm thinks that one of the things I talked about would, be of interest to you, it'll push you that individual little clip. And I'm just going to upload all those clips. But again, it will not blow up your sub box. It will not blow up your notifications. And so hopefully that'll be a way of putting more content out there to try and get more views out of the same work that I'm doing. It doesn't really take much more for me to just literally cut out those little segments and re-upload them separately. But I think that that'll hopefully help to, justify the time that I put into the weekly updates, even if the main video doesn't do super well. If I can get, even 1,000 views on each of these other little segments, that can help, kind of justify those weekly updates to keep them around. If that doesn't work out, maybe I will end the weekly updates at some point next year. We will have to see, but I want to give that a try. I'm confident that that will hopefully do well. We will see. And if you are someone, by the way, who finds videos on the channel by just going to like my uploads tab on the channel page, in the future, obviously that's going to be flooded with all these videos that will be in that upload, page, but you're going to want to just use the playlist instead. And there's always been a playlist for car reviews, just to see only car reviews, a playlist for weekly updates to see just weekly updates. And those are going to be the ways you can sift through if you want to see manually what reviews you missed, you want to watch them again or whatever. That's going to be the way to do that, is with those playlists. But otherwise, aside from people who watch videos through the uploads page or whatever, there should be no changes to the way. If you're used to weekly updates, you're used to just watching car reviews, nothing should change. You won't even know those videos are going live. So hopefully that'll be an unobtrusive way to hopefully expand the reach and maximize the work there, or the amount of stuff that I put in with the same effort. So anyway, there's that. The other little thing I'm considering, and I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this, those of you who made it to the end here, the OGs and the real diehard fans. I'm curious, I have a new idea of potentially doing interior reviews on my own whenever I'm on these media drives, because a lot of people post pre-embargo videos. So there's, an embargo, we all have to wait until we post our full driving review, but a lot of people have early looks where they do a walk around, or they do basically the whole review except the driving part, and those usually get a lot of views for those other channels. I never participated in that because I don't want to waste your time with two separate videos on the same car. I like having just a one-stop shop, but I have done the individual interior reviews in the past. I'm thinking about maybe putting those as a separate thing for some of those drive events so that I can get the interior review out early, get that, accumulating a bunch of views for people who are anxious for, stuff before the embargo, and then post the review as a separate thing and have people go back to watch the interior review. I know in the past some people didn't love going to a separate video for the interior stuff, so let me know if you think that would be annoying. It's just something I'm considering, but I just thought I'd pose that here and see what you guys think of that. But other than that, though, I just want to thank all of you who supported the channel this year. So many people that gifted memberships. Many people gifted memberships every single week almost here in the live streams that we did weekly. And also all of you who are members, there's over 150 of you that are members here supporting the channel. I really appreciate those of you who not only watch and subscribe and like and comment and share the videos, but also to support the channel with a membership. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all of you who supported the channel this year, also with the new merch store that we had, with some new, hats and shirts and hoodies and all that stuff. I'm so thankful to all of you who support the channel, spread the word, and all that. It really does help, keep this going. Because, again, if people stop watching, I stop doing this. It's that simple. And so, it all comes down to you guys. And so I thank you all so much for your support, and all the ways that you do support. And so, anyway, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your 2024 here. I hope you have a great 2025. Happy New Year to all of you here. And stay tuned. There'll be some more good stuff. I'm going to, again, keep on doing this channel as long as I can. So I'm hoping to have lots of awesome content here in 2025 for you guys. Stay tuned. I already got a bunch of stuff lined up here for next year, in the next few months here. So stay tuned. Lots of good stuff to come. And so, thank you all very much once again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.